Hello and welcome to 365 Days Towards Racial Change. My name is Tom and Eva. We're here talking about black issues in America, and doing a little exploration over the course of a year. About black people, their economic situation. We're looking at slavery, history, politics. Might even talk about the weather once in a while, see how that figures in. We are um, I guess grateful here. I want to give a shout out to a new movie streaming when they see us. Apparently, it's I guess a docu series movie dramatization. I'm not sure, but just look up at the title when they see us about some men wrongly convicted of some drama going on in Central Park, New York. So please watch it. I believe it's relevant. Um, to what we're talking about here. Two thoughts emerge as this project continues. First thought is, does the black mind, um, the slave mind, still persist among black folks in this country? Has slavery been such an institution as to condition a specific people to live, behave, respond to the world in a very specific way and manner? Secondly, flip side of the same coin is, does the white mind persist in America? Expectation of privilege, ease of movement in the economic system. Stick around, you'll get my ideas about that, but I try not to be as explicit as one would expect me to be here in this forum. And the second big thought is it's a concern for financial literacy among black folks, understanding the disposable income, how dollars move uh, in America and the world. Just have some fundamental understanding to be able to articulate what goes on with money internationally, locally, how money's spent and used, um, what the significance of the Federal Reserve and other international financial agencies may be, how that may impact black life in America. Understand the difference between renting a property and owning a property. Is a home an asset or a liability? Those conversations are very, very important, and you can check in on some great resources right here on YouTube for that. I'm inspired by a man named Dr. Claude Anderson. He's written three great works. I've read three of his great works, and he's got plenty of material. And he's on YouTube all over the place. Please Google him and check him out. He's one of the primary resources that we use here at Racial Change. First resource that I read, if you get one of his works in your whole lifetime, please get this one. A Black History Reader, 101 Questions You Never Thought to Ask. A very important work, nice cross-section of history, politics, economics, behaviors, all kinds of things that just blew my mind when I read that book. So it's getting well worn and it's well marked up, and I love having that resource. Black Labor, White Wealth, Search for Power and Economic Justice. And we are going to be in this resource for a couple days. Look at some of the economic implications, um, uh, impacts of slavery on uh, black Americans, how it may persist, hence my concern for financial literacy, and a book that maybe combines both elements of a Black History Reader and Black Labor, White Wealth is Dr. Anderson's National Plan to Empower Black America, Powernomics. You can find Dr. Anderson at Powernomics. and the Heritage Institute in Washington, D.C. Behind me, you see the hashtag #Us2 symbol and find Black women conversing, supporting one another there. Through that resource, check out Black Enough, BLAGGENUF. It's kind of a Black Facebook. Um, let's see. I think I said you can find Dr. Anderson at powernomics.com and the Heritage Institute. And it's the World Wide Web. You can find your community and your flavor here as you will and as you wish. If you can't, kind of do what I did and start your own. I got a little handful of private email subscribers that I have tucked away here, and thankful for their support. And as far as I know, they still watch. I communicate with a few of them. Finally, we look at a fictional life, an account of a slave's life here in America. A man named Tom, black slave named Tom, Uncle Tom's Cabin. Harriet Beecher Stowe's phenomenal work, and we're just walking our way through that text, and we're into some pretty getting into some meaty, very potent ideas and experiences in Tom's life, and as well as slave masters around him. And it's we're looking at how this work has informed art and literature, attitudes in slavery and in America. It's very influential work by Harriet Beecher Stowe, compiled in the mid 1800s. And I don't, until I read it myself, I didn't realize how much her work influences what is currently happening here in America. Also, I've just been selected to speak at a inclusion and diversity conference, and I hope I'll be at the right space, because one of the arguments that I support by Dr. Anderson is exclusion. So it's going to be interesting to see how this develops. It's scheduled for October 2019. I'll keep you posted as that develops. All right, we're in Black Labor, White Wealth, page 74 if you have the text. Now with Black Labor, White Wealth, probably don't visit it enough. It's specifically about the economic condition of black folks in America, how the whites are privileged and all that, how the blacks are disadvantaged and vulnerable and all that. As I've continued this project, I realize, it's the system, it's a white system, developed by whites, for whites, it's administered by whites, and it's a system configured in a white way. That was a big, huge part of their, I guess, success with this system. They encountered Africans over there, Native Americans over here, but both of those groups did not appreciate or recognize or acknowledge that they had a different set of values. I would argue, I would say that the blacks in Africa, Native Americans over here in America, their values consisted of more of an equal exchange and understanding that the exchanges were more affirmations of fellowship, not competitive, not so much for competition. They just had a different set of values. The European way was domination, exploitation, dominance. You get uh, you prosper from relationships. Relationships are prosperous. You're expecting a high return on your investment, things like that. Not so with these uh, two groups way back then. You may look at now. The Native Americans here have casinos is their big thing, um, and Africans have a well established exploitive system that they all have. I'm not saying that they didn't have respective systems where they expected some increase from their investments. I'm just saying it wasn't on overload. It wasn't so scheduled, predictable, exploitative as the white community from Europe. That's a huge problem. you know. So now, in light of that, the white Europeans were like, yeah, here's some beads and shiny things. Here's you like sweet stuff. Here's sugar. you know, when the Europeans see dollar signs, not only that, for the white European, the uh, the labor was free, the land was free. Boy, I mean, just bonus, bonus, bonus going on uh, over the world. So that's a little the background to support the foundation of the exploitation that the white Europeans engaged in when they came here. All right. We left off Tom and Eva in Uncle Tom's cabin, and Eva's growing up, ex, uh, uh, especially gifted, and she's in a rich family, rich white family, and all that. Tom is impoverished, and he's a slave. So it's interesting to leave that contrast and then let's get to the nuts and bolts of um, some of the reasons for that dynamic out of Harriet Beecher Stowe's work. We're The first thing we come to, whenever we talk about the contrast between white privilege and exploited black people, is how we scratch our head and say, wow, how could these white Europeans, so settlers, colonists, rail at the uh, injustices of the English crown, separate from that through violent means, and then turn around 180 degrees and uh, doubly um, impact the lives of um, a whole group of people solely based on skin color. Right? That's what they did. Now the whole world knows this, and they see it and all that. There doesn't seem to be much issue with backlash on that on that front, but we do find the founding fathers are sensitive enough to say, we're getting this newfound freedom, Revolutionary War, whatnot, but we can't be explicit in talking about subjugating this group of people, these black people. Um, we need to do something about that. So we talked a week or two ago about Thomas Jefferson, James Madison. I believe, they brainstormed a lot of the architecture of the original Constitution. And as it went through committees and reviews and inspections and things like that, uh, explicit language about slaves, um, and how slaves were to be treated in America. Oh, it had to be disguised, extracted, and all that. But we have the notes from Thomas Jefferson and James Madison about, and it has an explicit, specific language about how the slaves, black people, were to be treated from there going forward. Uh, so, there was a hypocrisy, but and it's even today, a lot of hypocrisy. We see, well, I have no idea what to believe as I look at the news today because, they're telling us publicly on the surface a lot of stuff, but behind the deals, there's secret things going on financially, there's classified information. So we don't know what's going on, until a politician or somebody in the inner circle is pricked enough to be kind of a whistleblower to let the public know what's going on. Like a guy like Snowden. Somebody willing to take a risk. It's going to cost them dearly, but to take a huge risk. About how the government, the American government, is doing all kinds of things on the surface. Oh, we like to make things appear so equal and open and inclusive when that's just not the truth. So it's an old, a very old paradigm that goes on in America, especially politically, and and it goes way back in America anyway. It's not new to the world, but America's roots of that, you know, their America's development towards revolution, they learned from the past, trust me, and they're determined to set up networks, barriers to not make those same mistakes. So this hypocrisy in the Constitution and the founding documents needs to be massaged and worked up so that when they spring it on the world, July 4th and all these celebrations, it appears that America is a great nation, the land of the free, home of the brave. Okay, that's an important thing to understand because the founding fathers need to, um, they can't appear hypocritical as they sever ties from England and oppress, enslave, rape, murder, hang, lynch, burn alive, uh, compel people to engage in free labor. And I'll give a shout out to the Native Americans and take land away from people. All right, so we got to clear that up even before we go forward into looking at some contrast here. um, Dr. Anderson, he has some great pieces here in this portion of Black Labor, White Wealth. Talks about some of the conservative arguments, how the conservatives would say slavery was beneficial for whites and blacks. Slavery was necessary. It made black lives better. This is before Black Lives Matter. The conservatives believe black lives are better because they were slaves. Um, the lives of the black children are better and things like that. Oh, and the conservatives will say slavery was not harsh. Slavery was not uh, about this sense of domination and abuse and whatnot. You've been with me for over 150 days now. We've seen tons of evidence against all that. Conservative just, have this flowery image of slavery. I mean, the word slavery it's not a good word. I don't know anything, any good slave illustration. If something or someone is a slave, it is at the mercy of uh, greater powers. A slave, a slave is present for the purpose. Period. You know. Uh, so that's an interesting little paragraph that Dr. Anderson has. A few stats. Dr. Anderson cites 20 to 35 million blacks killed outright. Now this is through slavery. You don't know what. Um, like how do you get chained down the bottom of a boat? They do give you exercise once in a while because you don't want to lay there. You can't lay there for the whole voyage. You'll be useless when you hit land again. Um, so many blacks just died from the voyage itself. 15 million, and I hear that number a lot. That seems to be a documented number. 15 million physically enslaved, over the course of 400 years. Now remember, you've got breeding as well, which I have not done the specific math yet, but the, uh, the the United States was not the slave population was not purely populated from blacks coming from Africa. White slave masters went into their slave mistresses and produced their own slaves. Your mulatto, quadroon, octoroon people, those lighter skinned, still black folks. They're not a darker white folk. They're a lighter black folk. White wants to stay white. Must be white. Uh, so that, that's some stats. This population that survived uh, for whatever reasons, by whatever means, academically disabled, impaired, economically impoverished, um, physically abused. Over 400 years. Yeah, that's that's a sad statistic he has about slavery. And this is what's interesting as well. We're going to go through. Dr. Anderson has a nice table on page 75, but we're going to look more on that tomorrow. But the Europeans in this slavery, like we understand why they did it. They were lazy. They needed to exploit. They had this opportunity with huge tracts of land and all that, so that they couldn't pay that much for their labor for the labor and be sustainable. They couldn't pay that much for the land and be sustainable and as powerful as they wanted to be. So so that's one thing. We'll look more. We'll tinker with that more tomorrow. But it's interesting. Like where did they get where and how did they become so I don't know so lethal, so weaponized in their slavery? Because that's not their history specifically. They're into serfdom, indentured servants. They don't get. They're not from a place where this kind of slavery exists. Slavery never existed anywhere in the world at any time over an extended group of people for this long a time, except in America. Only in America was it this long and brutal and just consistently oppressive. And then even after the lip service of emancipations, there was it just slavery lingered on until finally, even in today's world, we're finally rethinking and taking a hard look at incarceration rates for the Black and Latino population. Is the conversation today about that? But it's this kind of racism lingers on and on and on. Nowhere at any time in the world has it done that to this type of, like I said, lethal, weaponized degree. Only in America. He finishes this short section with talking about, I hope I'm saying this right, the Mamelukes. They were Mameluke rebellion of the 14th century where whites rebelled. Apparently, there was a time where the Arabs held white slaves, but the white slaves revolted. It was very murderous and bloody. So the white slaves, you know, reclaimed their freedom and separated. But it's interesting that this still, maybe with that mindset, how do they still come to taking black slaves hostage, prisoners, kidnapping them, and um, exploiting black people in the way they did. You know, that's one idea that Dr. Anderson puts forth. Uh, about why whites may have been in a position not to be the recipients of the long-term slavery that they fostered here in America. You know, and that's a bit of a sad development for black folks. Because well, there is no widespread rebellion. We've got little pockets of insurrection and unrest here and there, but the Native Americans fought back. Um, the groups that fight um, kind of get left alone. Now they do pay a heavy price in blood. The Native Americans, you know, butchered back to the Stone Age, and you can think of any other group in the world that used violence to secure their freedom. Did pay a heavy price. It's too bad that the black people were not more assertive and aggressive back then, which makes me think there's another level to getting, let's say, 15 million people, get a nice conservative number, 15 million black people to be so easily taken over. There's some element there that I am missing in the argument. I'm appreciative of Jesus, Gandhi, King, all of our nonviolent performers through history who've done great things. But I'm a little skeptical. Uh, I would have maybe have liked to hear a little bit about a fight here and there, but it's not present in the history, and that's a little disturbing to me. But anyway, I'm out of time here. I'm starting to ramble. Um, Slavery was peculiar. Well, the way slavery happened in America was peculiar. It happened in a way that you don't find in, uh, widely talked about in our history books. I'm sure slavery anywhere, we have human trafficking today and things like that. I'm sure there is. There's exploitation, there's domination, and all that. But it's not out in the public. Um, it's not so much. It's not the way slavery was configured in America over those hundreds of years. You know, I defy anyone to really find uh, whole peoples, a whole nation on earth enslaved to another group of people, you know, and have it be as brutal and exploitative as it was done on these American shores. So that's part one, slavery, that peculiar institution here in America. I'm Tom Nyback. That's day 160 out of the way. I'll see you tomorrow. We'll take a look at some comparisons and contrast further. Tune in. Let's keep it going. Bye bye.